Sorry. Yeah, I lost track of time a little bit there, but I kind of had an important thing to deal with the last few months. Good news is everyone's doing okay, so we can finally get back to the last 3 months of opera, which I guess would just be last part of April, May, and first one of June. But I'm ready. I have the notes here, so let's get into it. We have 4 left in the year. We have Der Rosenkavalier, Champion, Don Giovanni, and Die Zauberflöte. So let's begin. Rosenkavalier. Oh man, going through some of these notes here, it's pretty clear I had some issues with the subtitle guide. Like in Rosenkavalier, I had issues with subtitles right off the bat. Let's see, Sam's a little quiet, but everyone's doing fine. Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a thing like with Lohengrin where it felt like there was an actual dynamic cap on the top end. I mean, you can go to On Demand and listen to Lohengrin and it would be like, oh, it actually sounds fine now. But for here, I think it was just, I don't know if it was just she was quiet or there just wasn't a proper balance between orchestra and the stage. It'll probably get fixed in post. Probably a whole bunch of these things I could say, it'll get fixed in post. Like if you go to La Traviata, I complained about there being like this odd purple light in the middle of the stage and it made, who was it in there? Who played Violetta? Nadine Sierra. I said it made her look like a grape. You go in there into the on-demand and you look it up and they did color correction and made it look better, or maybe it was just the projector, but it wasn't necessarily just my projector either, because there were other people that agreed that there was an issue with that. Brian Mulligan. Oh, Brian Mulligan. Brian Mulligan was great. He was the father in Der Rosenkavalier. He was also the Herald, I think is the character in Lohengrin, and I liked him in both. He really does need to get some solid roles, get some more solid roles, really. I mean, the father's already a pretty solid role there. Like the funny bit, like in the middle where the doctor's trying to check on Sophie's dad and he just grabs a stethoscope and just yells right into it. It was great. Great visual there. Let's see, Act 3, the whole cross-dressing thing. I have on here, something tells me Yusuf wouldn't like this. I don't think he would have liked the next opera either. And I think the thing that really threw me off at the beginning was when they said, this was one of Strauss's best comedies. And I was like, this was a comedy? Like, it can be a comedy. It's just, I think Strauss and I have different ideas of what's a comedy. Or, I guess, some things haven't quite aged as well, which is fine. It happens. Comedy's the hardest to really keep timeless. It's the first to age, and it's the worst at aging. You know, I was watching this, I was just like, all I can think of is, I've seen this in movies before. Like, this pretty much feels like one of those movies that the frat pack would do back in the mid-2000s. Like, we've seen this story before. Maybe that's why I'm not really getting much into it. I mean, I like Rosenkavalier, but it's just, I don't know. I want to like it more, but it doesn't necessarily work as well as some other operas for me. Like, I look at it and we got the stereotypical bully, just like Johnny and Karate Kid, Biff and Back to the Future, Regina George and Mean Girls, Sack Lodge and Wedding Crashers. So I don't know if it necessarily would have been mind-blowing when it was first premiered, but nowadays it just kind of feels like we've seen it. It's an hour longer than those movies you would actually see it in. And once you get to the end, it takes kind of forever to actually get to the end. Like at the end, if I was doing a libretto of this, I would have our hero say something along the lines of, any trick I played, any charade I made, any prank I pulled, I did it to protect you from him. Instead, we get like half an hour of just fluff. Like seriously, I wanna like Strauss. The 4 last songs were great. The Rosenkavalier, the music is great. The music in Ariadne auf Naxos is great. He just doesn't know when to end it. Okay, we're moving on. Champion. Yannick comes in dressed as Rocky. We get a odd little thing at the beginning where Eric Owens is talking about having a shoe and where it's supposed to go, and says it goes where it wants to go. Yeah, at that point, Emil, I think, has dementia. I don't know if it's a CTE or if it's just like plain old dementia. Probably more like CTE, being a boxer and all that. 5 minutes in, we get some fun choreography from Camille A. Brown. Like, I don't mind the fact that we're doing operas of a boxer who was living before his time, or modern takes with a twist on old stories like Orpheus and Eurydice, or a journalist who had to deal with a rough childhood due to someone else's criminal behavior towards him. Can we have some new operas that are just fun? I realize this is high art, but even art can be fun.
Hey, what we doing to you? Do you want to season with the crispy lines?
Seriously, when is this coming to the Met? This would be so much fun.
We can make it go up with the faux hawk. Trim up this beard. Mix it in with some color and smudge it around. If you're feeling kind of different and weird, I can pick it out, even it up, take it back to the 70s with the mini fro. Maybe cut it down and shape it nice. Make the taper right, have it sitting real low.
Modern tech being used for set design, that was pretty fun. I can't remember any of it. Oh yeah, the ring announcer introducing all the scenes. That was a cool touch right there. It's a whole boxing opera. So having the guy announce all these things like he's announcing boxers coming to the ring, all pretty cool. I like this note here. All the old people are probably beside themselves with some of the language used. Oh my God, the F-bombs.
Well,
you can't say I'm on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
Man, this has been a while since I've seen this. The next two, I have no idea what they are. Cinderblock scene is disturbing. What's the Cinderblock scene? Got assistance from Michael Bent. Michael Bent? Oh, the Cinderblocks! Oh, that was Kid Emil. When he was being harassed? Abused? I guess abused by an adult, and he was just in his underwear, just standing on a cinder block, and he was holding something up. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been like buckets of something. Oh my God, that was such a disturbing thing. Man, Terrence, you do good operas, but you make me not want to watch it more than once. Michael Bent. Who's Michael Bent? British-born American film and television actor, former professional boxer who competed from 89 to 94. Won the heavyweight title from Tommy Morrison in 93. Bent is cited by jazz and film composer Terence Blanchard as having provided the inspiration for his Opera Theater of St. Louis 2013 production of Champion. This play is based on the real-life ring fights and subsequent death of Benny Kid Paret at the hands of Emil Griffith, a bisexual boxer in 1962. Over the years, while training Blanchard in boxing, Bent would share with him the transcendent and tragic elements that befell the two fighters. Because if we really look into it, it's not really Emil's fault that Benny died there. Like, Benny died because he had match after match after match after match, and going into that match, he actually had an injury a brain injury that he was dealing with. And he took one too many punches to the head that match, and that was it. Like, not even fight over, just life over. I mean, it's things like that why we got rules and regulations dealing with how you deal with injuries, and how leagues have unions that that negotiate these sort of things so that they're not getting people hurt regardless. Really, the problem was just how sports in general were dealt with back in the day. Emil had over 100 fights and not really that long of a career if you consider how long everyone else can go for. You look at Oscar De La Hoya, multi-decade career, 200 amateur fights, 45 pro. Floyd Mayweather, undefeated in the pros with 50 matches. He had 90 amateur fights. He had 6 exhibition fights as well, and a WWE match. Vitaly Klitschko, 200 amateur fights, 47 professional fights, and 1 election of mayor of Kyiv. Vladimir Klitschko, 140 amateur fights, 69 pro. But maybe you want something a little closer to era. So let's go with Sugar Ray Robinson. 85 amateur fights, 201 professional fights. Yeah. Like, it's not even just boxing where this happens. I remember back in the day, there was a ice hockey goalie named Clint Malarchuk. Be careful looking it up. He got his throat cut open by a skate blade. And he got it fixed. As far as I know, he's still alive. But he was back on the bench within about a week. If that happened today, he would probably be out for months just to recover from that, both physically and mentally. And there'd probably be some equipment that would suddenly become standard use in the NHL. Interesting transition between younger Emil, played by Ryan Speedo Green, who was great, to older Emil, played by Eric Owens, during that beatdown scene near the end of the opera. Bit of a possible PTSD moment there. Great line that Eric gave here. I killed a man and the world forgives me. I love a man and the world wants to kill me. I got nothing. That's pretty much society in a nutshell. Where pretty much you got one group that is so against the idea of LGBTQ plus that they feel it's a bigger problem than, say, actually harming someone. Because there's nothing wrong about loving someone who's the same gender as you or doesn't identify with a gender. There's nothing wrong with that. Love is love. The sooner we get it through our heads, the better. The way he moved at the end kind of reminded me of Ali. I wonder if he looked at videos of that, just be like how he was shaking with the Parkinson's at the end there. And just the tough ending at the end where he's just like, here's my shoe. Where does it go? It goes where it wants to go. Just a callback to the beginning, and it's just rough. It's like he got forgiven by the kid of the guy that he was in the fight with. He got forgiven by Benny's kid. And he finally could start forgiving himself. And just when that scene happens, you're like, oh God, he's going to forget about all this. Rough. Good. I never want to see it again. Don Giovanni. Oh God. I have problems with this. I'm probably going to show some clips from the one from Paris because that one's readily available. So just be advised, if some of the people don't look the same, that's because, it's a different house that it's doing the production. Also, it's why there's French subtitles. Let's see, Don Giovanni at the beginning, you'll never know my identity. He's not wearing his mask, so we already know his identity. Oh, this is just... How do you forget the mask? Like, he's supposed to be doing this in a way where Donna Anna is not supposed to understand who's doing this. You don't have the mask. Shouldn't she know right away? By the way, it's that John guy who did this. Let's see, the line from Don Octavio after that. I'll be husband and father to you. Let's see. Before I move on, I just want to say I loved the chemistry between Ben Bliss and Federica Lombardi, who were our Octavio and Anna during this. Probably my favorite Octavio and Anna from all the Don Giovannis I've seen so far. They were incredible together. I can't say enough great things about them. It was fantastic. More of that, please. I mean, issues with the production aside, I liked most of the people there. I disagree with casting Alfred Walker, though. I mean, he was fine for what he did, but he seemed like he was starting to be too old for Massetto. I suppose if I was going to cast Massetto, my first attempt would probably be Ryan Speedo Green, but he was already off doing Champion at the same time as this, so probably not that. I would say probably Donovan Singletary. Just this big guy who seems like he could be like this perfect himbo that would work for Massetto. Let's see, mannequins, are they supposed to be people or decoration? I mean, this is a production that was done post-COVID. I understand if they don't want to necessarily get all the extras back in now that everything has been opened up, but just a bit of an oddity. Let's see, the trio at the end of Act 1, it looked like they raided the basement of the Met. Everyone is in like black suit, black tie, black dress, and then you get the trio coming in and they're straight out of the 1700s. We're trying to sneak in here. Let's dress as loud as possible. And then we have gunplay in this thing, and the best I can describe it as the reverse Chekhov, where you use the gun at the very beginning of the opera, it shows up the rest of the way, but it never gets used again. Again, more issues with disguises when Leporello and Giovanni are trying to screw around with Elvira, and you know, no disguise for Leporello to make him look like Giovanni. Ugh. Why bother? Let's just make it a concert. And then there was the reveal of the Commendatore at the graveyard, even though we had mirrors in the background where, like, I'm pretty sure those were mirrors in the background. Like, there were mirrors in the background, right? Like, that would have been a cool way of having the conversation between him and Leporello without actually showing the Commendatore. That way you could actually have the big reveal when you have the confrontation between the Commandant and John. Also, why is he hitting Giovanni at the end? Why? So many issues with this thing. And again, there's great performances in here, and they screw them up. Also, what the hell happened at the climax? Because, you know, they do the handshake, they do the see, no, and then the Commandant walks away, and then the stage fills with all kinds of dark shapes, and then they pull back and they do the wide shot. You can't see a damn thing. I'm certain in post-production they're gonna actually cut to those spots where you actually see Giovanni being pulled out or slowly walking backwards out of there. Ah! This was a bad production. good performance of a bad production. That's really all I can say there. Then, no notes for the Zauberflute. Yikes. Oh, well, you know why I was actually watching it at home with my dad, because we were able to actually use Live at Home for the last opera. So we watched it together. And I do actually have a screen recording of it. I promise, Peter, I will delete it once the actual post-production one goes up on demand. I'm just going to use what was done just for fair use purposes. That's all I'm going to do. I promise. I guess that's it for right now. If this is your first time here and you liked what you saw, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when new videos come up whenever they do. If you liked the video, please hit the like button so that the algorithm can spread this video to others just like you. And if you have your own opinions on these operas, feel free to leave them in the comments below and we can talk about it there. I will see you guys next time for the Magic Flute. Take care. Like, I suppose if I was gonna do Massetto, phrasing,